Okay, hi everyone. Today, I have Gordon Bizar on the line. Gordon Bizar is he's an acclaimed entrepreneur, visionary, and innovator. Any Google search will bring will bring this up. Let me just tell you something. This guy has been involved in businesses for over 40 years. And over that time, he has done over 3,000 business transactions in companies that have, either he's acquired outright or sold or partnered with, merged with, or facilitated the transactions of. I mean, we're talking IPOs, the list goes on. Gordon's literally forgotten more in and about business than most people can learn about in their business life. I mean, if you were to list the types of businesses Gordon has been involved in, it would go on for pages. But I want to save the trees today and record just a section of Gordon's wealth of wisdom digitally. Now, some of these businesses Gordon has and is involved in include manufacturing, distribution, retail, wholesale, franchises, financial planning, television programs, engineering, software, motorcycle parts business, insurance, telecommunications, and infomercials. Like I say, the list goes on. And these are just some of the companies he's been involved in over the last 40 years. We're going as far back as early 1969 when Gordon began sharing his innovative approaches, his knowledge and strategic processes to private partners by setting up a private equity firm. The firm is called National Diversified Funding, of which Gordon Bizar is the chairman. And from what I can tell, there are two consistent goals with this private equity firm. The first is to leverage Gordon's entrepreneurial vision through the strategic partnership of other people's talents. And the second goal is to keep Gordon's juices going by doing deals and helping people attain their dreams. So, hello, Gordon.
Hi, Alfred. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm very glad to be sat here with you on the other end of the call, to get a few pearls of your wisdom.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me.
Great. Well, I mean, my purpose today is just to touch on a subset of the type of clients who come through the door at National Diversified. There are two groups that I want to address, and these are people who have a vested interest in the same business. So one of them is looking to buy the business, and then the other group is looking to sell that business for various reasons, retirement being the main reason. So either way, one party is looking to move in, and the other party is looking to move out. Now, I'm already familiar with what we do at National Diversified, but can you briefly give an insight into the build-up buyin, which is one of the main strategies we use to create a win to all the parties in this type of transaction? How does it create a win for all parties?
Well, thank you for that question, Alfred. It's the build-up buy-in is designed to fill a very unique niche that's actually in big demand right now. And what that is that you have people who have spent a lifetime trying to build up their business. And at some point they plateau out because they have limited skill sets. In other words, if you look at the stages of a business, the entrepreneur person who starts the business has certain skills and competencies that enable to get it up and running. But they may not have the organizational skills to build it to where it's what we refer to as scalable. In other words, where it can be grown because other people have now taken over some of the controls, some of the high level tasks that the owner may not have been capable of originally. Not everybody can do everything perfectly. And so to build a business of any size, you need to be able to make it scalable, and that means bringing in other people who have expertise that you don't. And a lot of entrepreneurial people find it very hard to do that, and so they reach a certain stage where their business plateaus out. Now, what happens there is if they stay as the primary person for operating their business, then what happens is they don't grow, they're ready for retirement, and all of a sudden they want to sell their business, but it can't command a high price because it's totally dependent upon that entrepreneur's being there day to day to run it. So in order to get the business past that, something has to happen that enables that to happen. And generally, when a company's growing, that's replaced with massive amounts of capital that are then invested in the business to help it grow over that plateau, to grow over that place. Well, what we do is we take a different approach with a build-up buy-in. We understand exactly what is going to be required to take that business to its next level and to make it worth 2, 3, 5, 10 times what it is right now. And what we're not about to do is to hand to the entrepreneur the capital to do it, because they don't have the core competencies or skill sets to do that, because if they did, they would have done it in all these years. So what we do is we literally partner up with them, and we take on the tasks of doing all of the things that will implement processes that take them to that next level, helping them increase their staff, increase their sales and marketing, decrease their costs of doing business, put in the strategies and structures that will take them to that next level that they aren't familiar with currently. And then we set up milestones where we don't charge anybody anything to do this. Okay, what we do instead is we come in, on our dime, we take the responsibility of building up each of these areas. And then as the business hits milestones, growth milestones, as we're accomplishing this, then we get a percentage of equity in the company. And the whole goal is for us to work together with the owner, build that business up over 3 to 5 years at the maximum, and then sell it to actually a strategic buyer who will not only pay for this higher value that the company is now worth, but they will actually pay a premium because we will have structured that business to be attractive to that strategic buyer. And let me just say one other thing, Alfred, I want to make clear what a strategic buyer is.
Okay.
A strategic buyer is a person who gets two values, or it's a business that when they acquire the other company, they get two values, not just one. When they make the acquisition, they get the value of that company's cash flow and profit, but they also get the benefit to their own company of increased sales or decreased costs that make their own business more profitable because of what that company they acquired can do for them in their operations. And without getting into more detail, the strategic buyer would pay a premium for that company, and that enables us and the original owner to exit the company within that 3 to 5 year time frame, where everybody's shares are worth many multiples of what that company was worth prior to us getting involved. And if we don't succeed, if we don't meet those growth milestones, we don't get any equity. So it's risk-free virtually to the entrepreneur owner. It's a win-win structure. We win, they win, and the buyer is going to win because the buyer is going to be acquiring something massively valuable.
Oh, that's amazing, Gordon. So value building that is risk-free for all three. Well, we're the ones, National Diversified are the ones who actually take on the risk, but value is created on both sides.
Yeah, but we don't see it as risky. See, if we put money into the company and then depended on the entrepreneur to be able to use it wisely, that would represent risk because the entrepreneur at that point does not have a proven capability to build their business beyond that plateau. Okay. It's not risky for us because we don't put in necessarily cash. If there's cash required, we'll help to get that infused into the company. But most often, it's not cash that's required. It's know-how. It's the capability and the infrastructures, all of which we have in place, that we know we can deploy into that company. If we won't take on a company unless we know that our resources will make that strategic and significant difference in that company. And so for us, we don't see it as risk because we're not betting on the business. We're not betting on the company. We're not betting on the owner. We're betting on us because we've evaluated it before we went in. and we know we can deliver, and so we're very comfortable with that, and very rarely do we make mistakes on that anymore. We've got that down to a pretty good science.
Okay, so you're gonna essentially have a business owner who is wanting to go out of their business and they're wanting to retire, and they might not have a plan B in terms of what they're going to do with that business. So an entity like National Diversified is going to offer them the guidance to actually build the value and actually build a nest egg that a sophisticated buyer is going to come along, and the business is specially packaged for them because it slots into what they want to do. Is that essentially what we're looking at?
Yeah, well, it's even more important than there's a better explanation that I can give you of exactly what happens to an owner who's looking to sell their business. If the business is still primarily dependent upon the owner for its operations, in other words, the entrepreneur usually likes to control everything, and so they make sure as they're trying to build their business that they have control over all the various pieces of their business. Now, that has a positive to it because they feel comfortable with that, and when they realize that when they're exercising control, they can maintain the business at that certain level. The problem with that is when you go to sell the business, unless you're selling the entrepreneur too,
right,
that business comes without that person around whom that person was structured to be important and critical to the operation of that business. So nobody can buy a complete business anymore from that person because they're going to have to go in and replace that entrepreneur, and they're not going to have the same years of experience and the same history and the same relationships with customers and suppliers that the owner had. So the goodwill value of the business shrinks dramatically, and the chance of the owner getting a really good price for the business, or sometimes even to be able to sell it at all, become very, very low. And the fact is, and I don't know if you're ready for this number, but 78% of all businesses do not survive the owner on retirement. And then what that means is they don't get sold, they don't get passed on to children who can succeed with them, and they end up being liquidated at the retirement of the owner for a fraction of the value that business could command as a going concern if it were structured properly. So what we do is we really accomplish two value escalations for the owner. One is when we get involved, now the company will no longer be looking at a possible liquidation, number one. And number two, we're going to radically increase the sale value over a 3 and maximum 5-year period to where that owner is going to have way more than enough money to retire with a lifestyle that's better supported than when he was actively running his company.
Gordon, that's amazing. I don't think there's any more complete explanation of that. Yeah, I just wanna take the time to thank you for taking time out in your busy schedule for us today.
Well, it's my pleasure to do this. By the way, you when we started this, you had originally asked for two things. One is, what about the sellers, which is the people who generally are now looking to retire? There's also another group of sellers, and those sellers are people who have built their business to a certain plateau. It's not going where they want it to go, so they're really just looking to sell. They're not ready to retire, but they're looking to sell and get out and then take their money and go do something else. We can help those two, and the same process works for them. That works for the people who are looking to retire. The other side is the people who want to acquire businesses and build their business growth by acquisition. That's an important part of this process because there are two ways to grow a business. One is by internal growth, where you work very, very hard to increase your sales. If you're very good at that, you might grow 20, 25% per year for several years. And then invariably, as you penetrate your market, your growth rate will slow down. And as your business matures, you'll get down to around 5 or 10% per year growth. Now, that's typical. There are obviously exceptions, but that's the standard. That's the norm. Well, what we're able to do is to expand the capability of a business to grow by external growth, which is acquiring other companies and adding them to the one that you already have. When you grow by acquisition, when you grow by external growth, you're not limited anymore to 20, 25% per year. You don't slow down to 5 or 10% per year. You grow logarithmically.
Wow.
Because every 6 months to a year, you can buy a company that's darn near the size you are. And you keep buying larger companies, more strategic companies. And our specialty is making these acquisitions without the need for large amounts of capital. And whatever capital is required, we're able to usually help generate. And as we generate that capital, it's usually very small amounts, but we're able to make very substantial acquisitions because of the strategies and techniques and methods that we've developed over the last 45 years. So those are the things that we really work with here at National Diversified. And we look forward to helping businesses grow, helping entrepreneurs achieve their dreams of giant companies if that's what they want to build. And then at the end of the line, when it's time to retire, how do you optimize that company for sale? How do you get out of that business with the maximum amount of cash in your pocket and have the wherewithal to live that great lifestyle in retirement? So that's in a nutshell what we do here.
That's a pretty big nut right there. Gordon,
well,
I want to thank you.
It's my pleasure, Alfred. And I know I'm here in the U.S. and you're on the other side of the pond. And I know in the past we've enjoyed the opportunity to work with you as well.
Well, thank you very much, Gordon. So I will definitely be in touch.
Okay, thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye.